Feeds is my favorite episode or topic of discussion in any meeting wherever I go. I love discussing feed a lot. Why? I'm an avian nutritionist up to master's level. That's where I specialize. My name's Antonio Innocent Mdongi. I am your full-time poultry plug, guys. And if you're new to our YouTube channel, kindly hit the subscribe button. Like and share as much as you can. This is because I don't want you to miss any episode that we bring. Remember, with AIM Agriculture, it's all about education, secrets, tips, guidelines, and this is all just meant to make you a success in your business. Wow! We've done the masterclasses. They are super amazing, super educative. I love the feedback. So if you haven't enrolled, then check out our website. I've shared the link in the description below and enroll as a student. Commercial feeds versus homemade feeds. Others will call it commercial. Ugandans, commercial feed versus homemade feed. It was not a diss, it was a joke. Both of them have got advantages and disadvantages. And I'll be very quick on this. The only disadvantage, or one of the main disadvantages of commercial feeds is one. The feed producers do not have consistency. They will change the feed formulations according to the prices of the raw materials, which are determined by the production cycles. Now, for example, this farmer is buying feed from a certain store, a certain brand. When this brand feels that the prices of maize have gone way higher, they will switch to wheat because wheat is a substitute of maize. But then they will switch without informing you, the consumer. You will only realize that they have switched from maize to wheat when you're opening the bag of feed. Now, assuming your birds are in peak production, automatically, for that period you're introducing a new feed, production will go down. Why? This is stress. The birds are used to feeding a certain feed. But now, the supplier has brought a feed with certain formulation. Of course, what guides us scientists in feed formulation is the percentage DCP. These persons can argue out and say, but we've attained the required DCP percentage. DCP, I mean the percentage of digestible crude protein, not the calcium phosphate. So they will use anything palatable. They will use any raw material in their availability that is palatable and cheaper, so that now they can make a profit out of it. One will argue out and say, it was good if they could have informed you so that you can give the birds vitamins to control that stress. When you are prepared that the feed is going to be changed, then you introduce vitamins so that even when you're changing the feed, the stress levels are managed and production is at par. Now, don't blame them. Consumers are many, new consumers are coming, and they've got limited channels of communicating to you, the consumers. So that is one of the major disadvantages of commercial feed. The other disadvantage of commercial feed is handling. You will have to buy feed from these high-end manufacturing companies, which I don't want to mention because I don't want to market for them, but their feed will come at a very high cost. When you're buying feed cheaply, when you happen to go at the stores where they process that feed, you'll be shocked. There is no proper inventory. Biosecurity is at the least. Hygiene is at the least. And even the handlers of the feed. Remember, there are zoonotic infections. When you go to a store to buy feed, or rather a feed mill, where they're making feed, and are going to buy feed at that store, this is a center where farmers meet. They might not necessarily meet to take coffee, but they are meeting to pick a certain produce, which is feed. So if farmer A is coming from his farm, and his farm has a breakout of coryza, comes to the feed mill, farmer B is coming with a breakout of, let's say, fall cholera, another one coccidiosis. They are all meeting at a common point. So this is a center for infections. Therefore, the feed manufacturer has to pay much attention in managing those particular infections. You have to pay much attention to that. Looks easy, looks simple, but that's the reality. The other major disadvantage of commercial feeds is the costing, is the price. When we rely mostly on commercial feeds, these people are processing their feed, they have to get licenses, they're incurring a cost on transportation, they're incurring a cost on marketing and branding, and required permits, which they have to recoup back from that feed. Then therefore automatically it dictates that the prices will be higher. And even some of them will sell to you the brand. So are you consuming the brand or are you consuming the feed? When it comes to homemade feed, homemade feeds are of advantage and are of disadvantage. When it comes to homemade feeds, they too have an advantage and disadvantage. But of course, the advantages surpass the disadvantages. Advantage one is you're able to check your feed in terms of the raw materials you're using. So if you're going to change the raw materials, then you'll automatically introduce vitamins, which will help control that stress, because you are the captain of your ship. When you're changing from wheat to maize, then you know I'll change wheat to maize next week. So you introduce your birds to the required vitamins to control that. The other beauty about homemade feeds basically is you control the quality of the feed. You are able to formulate your feed, so you're able to know when you're buying the maize, you're buying it in what state. So when you're giving your birds the maize, then it's in the most accurate state. The other advantage of homemade feed is now the pricing, because basically as a farmer, you're working on cutting the cost of production. So you're able to buy your raw materials, reduce the costs of where you're buying them, and then bring them to the farm. You're able to check the quality so that as you make the feed, you are assured of the quality I'm making my feed with, or I'm giving the birds with the feed is this much. Now, don't just rush into formulating your own feeds because you feel it's an easy thing. I can make my feeds. You'd rather buy commercial feeds, honestly, if you have got no full knowledge of how to make your own feeds. Remember, when you lack an ingredient, it has an effect to the birds. And also, when an ingredient is in excess, it has an effect on the birds. Those are the key things we pay attention to. So look at the two comparisons between commercial feed and homemade feed. Then now make a decision that suits you according to where you are. Who loves you more than M Agriculture does? And if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Hit my comment section. I will respond.